Welcome to episode 5 of Not So Malone. Today I got on Skype with my friend John and we discussed the fight last night between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, as well as Colin Kaepernick in the NFL and the state of politics in our country today. Hope you guys enjoy.
All right, man. So last night, Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather face off in the fight of the century,
Oh yeah.
UFC versus boxing. Let's hear it. What are your thoughts?
I mean, the thing is, in the first early parts of the fight, I mean, obviously, Connor was impressed me. He was using his jab to keep distance. He was holding his own. So, I mean, early on, he was looking pretty good. He landed a nice uppercut counter, which was nice. But the thing is, once Floyd, started getting his timing and Connor started gassing out, I mean, at that point, he was just picking him apart, obviously. Then, I mean, and then Floyd changed his game plan a few times. And early in the fight, he was trying to fight like that counter style, but Connor is actually exposing him early on with the jab. Actually snapped his head back a few times, but then he went over to the ropes, and Connor was doing good there. But then once Floyd started walking him down, especially when Connor was tired, he just started picking him apart, and that's where the TKO came in. I mean, I know it's not UFC where they let him get away with more hits, but
Yeah,
you know, that's that.
I don't watch a whole lot of boxing or fighting for that matter, but I did not
Yeah.
expect them to call the fight that early. Like I thought they were just gonna let him keep going, but I mean, when they were like
No.
reviewing the fight, you could tell that Conor wasn't even like fighting back or anything.
Yeah,
He was
he
he
was
was
so
done.
tired. Yeah, he was gassed. Like, I don't think he was hurt, but he was obviously tired. Like, even, I mean, the thing is, though, if you remember the Nate Diaz fight, the second one, he was tired in that one, too. But actually, in the third round, it looks like I didn't even think in that fight at the third round he would even be able to go to the fourth round. But he got that second win, and he actually won that fourth round that actually won him the fight. So, I mean, I kind of wish they would have let it go, but it's boxing, and that's the way it is. They're more about the technical KOs. But, I mean, Floyd
Right.
definitely won. I mean,
I mean, and that's pretty much what you would expect. Like it's not like any surprise that he won. He's
yeah.
he's 49 and 0 for a reason, and now
Well,
he's
50.
50 and 0.
If you
So,
want to know if he count his wife, but his ex-wife. I'm just
oh,
kidding. I'll give respect to Mayweather though,
throwing
because I
shade.
actually am a Mayweather fan. I do like his box, not as a person, but I do like his boxing abilities.
Right.
I mean, he's a good fighter, but I mean, Conor definitely did a lot better. I mean, you had people like Max Kellerman and Bob Arum and all these boxing guys saying, "Oh, he won't land a shot on him. He'll only hit his arms and his shoulders, but he won't land any significant shots." Where as he did land quite a few shots. He actually landed more shots than Manny, I'm pretty sure, at a higher percentage when they fought. I thought it was a pretty entertaining fight. I was excited to see every round, but then yeah, towards the end, it definitely fell off there.
Right. How many rounds are in UFC fights? It's like
For championship fights, it's 5 rounds at 5 minutes with one
right.
minute
Okay.
breaks, whereas boxing is for championships are usually 12 at 3 minutes at one with 1 minute break. So
Okay.
you fight more consecutively in UFC, but it's a less amount of time because you're only talking about 25 minutes of fighting compared to 36. But
Okay.
Connor's stamina was the thing I was really concerned with from the beginning because I know he has the thing of getting winded. So
Right. So, and after the fight in Floyd's interview, he was saying like, yeah, our game plan was to wait out 25 minutes and then just lay into him because he expected him to get winded, and that's pretty much exactly what happened. I,
yeah,
I even noticed it. I was like, right around round 9, he started getting really tired, and then he took him out in round 10.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, Connor should have been more prepared on the cardio, but I mean, the thing
right.
is, you for somebody who's never fought a professional fight and to go up against somebody who's 49 and 0 and was able to actually land his jab and dictate early on with the distance, I mean, you couldn't be disappointed at that. I mean, somebody who's an MMA fighter, but I mean, obviously, it's Floyd Mayweather, one of the greatest defensive boxers. He uses his Philly shell stance and stuff like that, and he's a great fighter. He's got good footwork, good head movement. Even Connor had really good head movement.
I
I thought
noticed
early
that.
on.
Yeah, he had some good dodges in there. I didn't.
Yeah, he used his.
Yeah.
He had quite a few slips, and he was landing some counters like that uppercut was nice. You usually don't see that in boxing, a counter uppercut like that, especially on somebody
Yeah.
like Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Even Floyd
No.
smiled after that. I think he was even impressed early on, like
Right.
because he
Yeah.
was
You
actually
could you
getting.
could see Floyd was smiling a couple times. He was like having fun.
Yeah,
I
but
think.
you could definitely tell that he was. I think he was pretty impressed early on because like you could tell he fought better. He thought Connor definitely fought a lot better than he was going to, but. I thought it was a pretty entertaining fight. I don't feel like I was robbed out of my money, but I'm really excited for this fight on the 16th of September for Canelo and Golovkin. That's going to be a good fight. So,
I don't know who they are.
Well, that's going to be the biggest fight in boxing. I mean, obviously,
Okay.
because it's probably as big as the Mayweather Pacquiao fight was in boxing. But the thing is, both of these guys are in their prime.
Hmm.
But I mean, Golovkin is kind of a little bit older. He's in his mid-30s, whereas Canelo's younger. So I think Golovkin's going to take him out at the sixth round KO or seventh round maybe. But that's what I'm hoping for. So we'll
Okay.
see.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like if they had gone less rounds, like if they had gone like 8 rounds, Connor could have
Yeah,
definitely won. Like
yeah. I mean,
even on the technical side, I think Connor could have won if it was only 8 rounds.
the funny
But
thing is, I think Connor was actually trying, kind of emulating some of Floyd's style early on. He really wasn't pushing that much. He was kind of
yeah,
waiting for Floyd to come to him, which I think ended up kind of throwing Floyd off because Floyd isn't used to that. He's used to people not countering. He doesn't really fight counter fighters.
yeah,
Like Pacquiao's definitely not really a counter fighter. He's somebody who's going to bull it forward and try to knock you out. So, but I mean, I was impressed. I thought Connor did a good job for somebody who never fought professionally. But I mean, the results are pretty. I mean, I still had hope he would win.
well, yeah.
But
I
I
mean,
mean,
there's always hope that he just lands just one solid strike to the face, and
but I would say the first three
Floyd
rounds.
collapses.
The first three rounds, I would have scored the Connor, but everything else after that, would have been. I would have had it maybe 3-7, maybe 4-6. Like, but I would probably
Yeah,
most like have 7 for Mayweather, and then of course the TKOs. So the technical knockout, not a legitimate knockout, but that's
yeah,
fine. It's boxing though.
yeah. I mean, it's just it's what you expected. Like, but yeah, definitely the first 3 rounds, he looked really good, and I was kind of like, what is Floyd doing? He was just kind of taking a lot of hits, and he wasn't throwing a whole lot back, and then he got countered a few times, and
Well, I think it's that awkward stance
but
of Connor. I don't think he was like he didn't have his
yeah,
timing down. Connor stands weird. His hands are down. He doesn't really move around too much like a boxer. He hits you from weird
right,
angles. I mean, it's just like he's just a weird fighter. So I think it was just the first few rounds. I think Floyd was filling him out like he normally does fighters. But once he got his timing down and seen that Connor was gassing, he just took advantage of that. At that point, he was just beating him up pretty good at that point, especially in the ninth and 10th rounds, even the
yeah.
eighth round too. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, Floyd had the game plan set. He knew what he was doing. He just waited him out, let him tire himself out, and then like,
But 21 years of pro boxing experience will give you.
right?
But
I mean,
so
like I said, there's a reason he's undefeated. It's
yeah,
not just like he runs away from people and hugs them until he wins.
yeah, no,
He's got a game plan.
I hate when people say, "Oh, he runs," but then at the same time he lands 3 times the amount of shots as his opponent does.
Yeah,
He's a smart boxer. I mean, he's
yeah,
going to
he's really
counter you.
smart.
He's going to wait for you to fall into his trap. So I mean, you can't say that's running away. Especially if you watch him, like if you ever watch him fight Canelo Alvarez, like when that fight, or Ricky Hatton, he was teeing off on these guys. I mean, he picked Canelo Alvarez apart in that fight. I mean, and then Ricky Hatton, I mean, he basically did an Olay, and Ricky Hatton slammed into the post basically because he's so quick. And then when he's a good fighter. I mean, he's got great impeccable footwork. He's got probably the best head movement in the game. But I mean, with all that being said, even when I was watching Sugar Ray Leonard after the fight, he said he was impressed with McGregor. Most fighters like Andre Ward were saying that too, because he definitely earned the early rounds of keeping his own. But I
Hmm.
mean, I definitely feel like I got my money's worth. I thought it was more entertaining than the Pacquiao fight, to be honest. So
Yeah, I didn't watch the Pacquiao fight live, but I've seen like clips and stuff and heard about it. It just
yeah,
yeah, it seems
I
like
mean,
Floyd just kind of mopped the floor with him.
yeah, and I even think he did way better. I think McGregor did better than Andre Berto in the Floyd's 49th fight,
Yeah.
because Floyd destroyed Andre Berto. But I mean, Floyd definitely did a good job for a 40-year-old guy. He definitely came in and he looked good still, and he
Yeah,
was in good shape.
Floyd still looks top of his game, honestly. Like I don't even he
I,
could definitely keep going if he wanted to. I mean
I don't
maybe. I
know.
don't know. This is Connor's first fight, so I
Yeah,
guess that's not a
exactly.
good,
No,
judgment, but
I don't know if he could take on Golovkin right now or Canelo right now, because Canelo's in his prime. When he fought Canelo before, Canelo wasn't in his prime.
right.
Golovkin, Golovkin is like Manny. He kind of has a similar style to Manny Pacquiao, but he's still in his prime, whereas Floyd wouldn't fight Manny in his prime. So that's definitely that. But
Hmm.
he has a tendency. Floyd is a smart guy. He's a smart boxer. He doesn't want to put his career on the line because he even said himself one punch could injure your whole career. So he fights safe, fights offensively. He usually fights fighters like Shane Mosley and guys like that are out of their prime or on their way out, or guys like Canelo who he fought when he was really young before he had hit his peak. So he's smart like that. He's a good businessman. He's probably going to make about $300 million. So can't knock the guy on that.
Yep, that was like the money fight. Like that's the only way to say it. Like these guys made so much money on this fight. Didn't really matter who won.
Well, right now, before the pay-per-view release, from what I was reading on it off ESPN, before the pay-per-view and all the ticket gates have been put in, it looks like Floyd, no matter what, is going to get 100 million, and Conor, no matter what, is going to get 30 million. But by the time all the pay-per-view buys come in, that they could easily triple their money. Like Conor could be around 90 million, and Floyd would be probably at 300 million.
Yeah, this is like probably the biggest event in boxing, at least since Floyd Pacquiao. Probably better than that though.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty. I feel like that one was definitely with the purists and the traditional boxing fans. I mean, that was obviously a huge fight. That was, a type of fight that had like a Holyfield Tyson feel to it, or these super big names. But boxing right now, I think one problem that's hurting boxing right now is that the heavyweight division isn't as entertaining as it used to be, and that's why I feel like people say boxing is dying.
It's just not as entertaining anymore. You're not getting people like Mike Tyson one punch KO everyone. You get Floyd Mayweather who wins on technicalities and
Well, I mean, he was entertaining early in his career. Like if you were to watch him back in his prime, he really was really great. I mean, he was a really exciting boxer, but as he got older, he just got more and more conservative and more less likely to engage. Especially, and you could see that in the last two fights against Berto and Pacquiao. He was just very, very conservative. But that's what he got there. I mean, does people say, "Oh, he's running"? I mean, if it was so easy to run, then why doesn't everybody else do it and be 49-0?
Exactly.
But they don't have the counter ability or the head movement or the footwork or just the IQ of boxing. Like he's a smart boxer. He can't read. He's not smart in that.
He put all his skill points in boxing.
Yeah, exactly. Growing up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, with an uncle and a dad who were both championship boxers, that's all he knew his whole life.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about the fight. I mean, I had a good time last night.
It was really entertaining.
Sure.
Really entertaining. I do kind of wish I could have seen Conor. Like I felt like Conor was kind of just he was getting good hits off, but I didn't feel like he ever just went all in trying to knock him out.
I think he was trying to conserve himself to go 12.
Yeah, he was too focused on going 12 rounds. It seemed like to me, and like I said, I mean, he should have tried to knock him out. Like he shouldn't have planned on going 12 rounds, because if he goes 12 rounds, he's not going to win on a technicality. Like the judges aren't going to give him the win.
Oh yeah, especially since two of them are from Nevada.
and especially since just the way he was fighting, he kept punching him in the back of the head, which is illegal.
Oh, his hammer fist.
He was losing points for that.
He didn't lose points, but he did get warned. But I mean, Floyd was still turning his back a lot, which is also a huge no-no in boxing. You're not supposed to ever turn your back. Yeah, you're not supposed to turn your back because if the ref doesn't stop you in time, I mean, technically, if he was to get hit, I mean, you're not supposed to turn your back. I mean, a ref will tell you that. But I mean, Floyd, I think, did that just to throw Conor off and kept tying him up. Anytime Conor was starting to get a rhythm or anything, Floyd would tie him up, and that's what he does, is he tries to break your rhythm and establish his game plan, and that's what he's good at doing. So I mean, he definitely showed there. But I mean, Conor still went 10 rounds with him. But I mean, Conor was fighting a good fight in the beginning. He was fighting smart, because I think Floyd was expecting Conor to charge in at him and like try to knock him out, and I think a lot of people expected that. But I mean, the fact that he didn't do that, I think actually helped him.
You think so?
I think he fought smart in the beginning. I think honestly, if he had better cardio and would have made that level change, then maybe it would have been different. But
I feel like he should have known that he couldn't go 12 rounds. Like, I mean, he didn't train very long. Like, he only trained for like 3 months or something for this fight.
I would say it's probably close to 6. But I mean,
since the fight was official. But I mean, yeah, I guess he was kind of preparing for it a little bit before that.
Yeah, his last fight in the MMA was in November when he knocked out Eddie Alvarez. Made Eddie Alvarez look like an amateur, that's for sure. So let's not forget that. I mean, in MMA, he's a great fighter, but I mean, Come on.
He should have known he couldn't go 12 rounds, and he should have just gone all out from the start and
But
tried to
it's
knock him out.
when you're fighting a counterpuncher, you don't want to just bull rush into a counterpuncher. Like that's what Floyd would want you to do.
I don't
You have
know.
to do something different. You don't want to just rush into somebody's going to counter the hell out of you. You got to be smart. And I think he was using his jab to keep distance because he is the bigger man.
Right, he had the
And
reach
yeah,
on him. He had
yeah,
the
and he was
reach.
using that. He was utilizing the jab quite a bit. If you go back in the earlier rounds, he was snapping Floyd's head back a little bit. But I mean, if you're a fighter that's going up against somebody who's a counter puncher, like you don't want to just blow straight into him and like. I mean, that's what Floyd would want him to do. That's what Floyd loves is when people like Ricky Hatton. That's what Ricky Hatton did. If you watch that fight back in 2000, in the late 2000s, I think it was 2010. He fought Ricky Hatton, and that's what Ricky Hatton is. He's a brawler. Like he gets on, he rushes you, puts his head on your chest, and just starts going after you. And Floyd made him look like an idiot. I mean, he olayed the guy for God's sakes. He looked like it was a bull. He just checked hooked him into the turnbuckle and just got out of there, and then ends up knocking him out that same round. So you got to fight smart against Floyd, and I think Connor's doing good, but yeah, his cardio was nowhere near where it needed to be.
Not
So
even close. He went exactly as far as Floyd expected him to go.
yeah,
I mean, it was like Floyd could have written how this story went, like
uh,
before it even started. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's all I have to say about that fight. It was
yeah.
really entertaining. I wish Connor would have either trained harder, like been more prepared for cardio wise, or just tried to knock him out a little more, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
cardio has always been an issue with Connor, though. If you watch any of his fights that go anything over 3 rounds, he seems to have a problem with that. But the Nate Diaz fight, what impressed me is that he actually came back after being. I mean, the third round and the second Diaz fight. I mean, Diaz was just putting him against the cage, clinch, 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 and just beating him up. In the fourth round, Connor got that second one and landed some good shots, and that ended up winning him the fight. But overall, yeah, I mean, it was kind of what you expected, but I had a good time. But I'm really excited for this Canelo Alvarez and Triple G fight coming up. That's going to be an exciting fight. And George St. Pierre is coming back to fight Michael Bisping
Oh yeah,
in
I
Madison
saw that.
Square, yeah, in Madison Square Garden. So that's going to be a fun one. We'll see how that goes because St. Pierre usually is a welterweight at 170. He's going to be going to 185 to fight a middleweight. So we'll see how that goes. So
Yeah. All right, yeah, that was pretty good fight. Glad I watched it live. Would not have wanted to see that on a replay, but yeah. So let's talk about I don't know.
what's
Let me
next
get
on
your
the agenda?
thoughts. What?
I said, what's next on the agenda here, Matt?
I was just thinking about this right now, but let me get your thoughts on Colin Kaepernick and the fact that no team wants him anymore. What
Oh, I can.
what do you think is the reason for that?
Okay, well, first off, these people protesting like boycott the NFL. First and foremost, it's not the NFL's fault. I mean, it's owners that don't want to bring them onto the team. So this is the thing: if Aaron Rodgers or somebody like Marshawn Lynch or a player that's like a great player that actually would be a benefit to the team, if they were to do something like that, I feel like people would overlook it. But Colin Kaepernick is not that great of a player. I mean, if he is a starter, he'd be a low tier 3 maybe. Do you really need that much drama from somebody who really isn't going to make that big of a difference to your team? He's not going to really help you win. Yeah, he may be better than Brock Osweiler, but I mean, come on, like he's not worth that trouble. And I don't care what his protest is, but the thing is, you have to realize that, even like somebody like Jim Brown, a former, player on the Cleveland Browns who played in the 60s and definitely knows about racism, even says like, I love this country, my flag. There needs to be changes made basically, but you should respect your anthem and your flag. But I mean, that's not the important thing. I mean, he has the freedom to protest. I don't have any problem with that at all. I mean, it's his First Amendment right, but I mean, expect the consequences of people not wanting to bring that into your team, especially when you're not really that valuable of a player. Like he's
Right.
not.
I don't have like the stats right in front of me, but wasn't he like in terms of like passing yards or something, he was like the 25th ranked quarterback last year?
Well, I think last year he did okay. I believe, I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think he had about 16 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, which is okay. But I mean, just the last few years, he really hasn't been, especially with Jim Harbaugh, as soon as he left, because Jim Harbaugh for the 49ers really had him in a good system. But since then, he really just isn't that great of a player. Like Marshawn Lynch has been sitting for the anthem for the Raiders, but he'll still play because Marshawn Lynch is an asset to that team because he's a good player. And, he's sitting, and there's a lot of players that are sitting, but it's just because Colin Kaepernick isn't worth the trouble to have
Right.
all this
Yeah,
drama.
it'd be one
Yeah.
thing if he was actually good and he was
Yeah,
causing
exactly.
controversy, but
And
he's
people are
not
saying
good, and he's like, bringing bad publicity to your team. Why would you want
exactly.
that guy on your team? Like,
And people are like, well, he would be a good backup quarterback. Well, why do I want to have a backup quarterback that's just going to cause problems? I
yeah,
could have somebody that's about the same skill level as him, doing nothing but sitting there and being quiet like
yeah,
you're
someone
supposed
who
to
just
with your
keeps their mouth
clipboard.
shut.
Yeah, exactly. With your clipboard helping call plays, not sitting
Yeah.
there like causing, a ruckus. But I mean, I have no problem with them. I never really liked Colin Kaepernick as a Packers fan. He really, he definitely shredded us a few
Oh
times.
yeah.
He was a good player, but he's not the same player, and he's not somebody that's worth all that trouble to keep him on the team. So I mean, I can understand people saying, "Oh, well, he's doing a peaceful protest," but the thing is, it's business, and in business, if you're going to cause more problems than you're worth, why am I going to pay you to be a distraction in the locker room?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense to me. But
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with him sitting during the anthem. Like,
it's his right to do it.
you
But
have your right. That's like, people fought and died so that you can sit down while they sing the national anthem. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
and people
It
also have the right not to sign you on their
and
team because of that.
absolutely, they also have the
So,
right not to hire you for that reason. Sorry, dude. That's how it works. It goes both ways.
you can't have like rights for saying, oh, well, he should have the right to do this, but then, oh, but they need to sign him. An NFL team needs to sign him. Well, then, who's got rights? You're giving somebody right for protest. And it's the right for me saying as an owner, he's not worth the money. He's not worth the distraction. He's not worth the trouble as a player. So I mean, come on, let's this boycott stuff. Let's just put that stuff to rest. I play
Yeah.
fantasy football and I wouldn't draft him, even if he was a
I
starter.
mean, nah, he's just not a good player. It's not worth it. I don't know. How are your Packers looking this year?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a sports guy, straight from Salt Lake City, the sports guy. I'm just
I mean,
kidding.
we don't have
But
to only talk about
no, no,
sports.
no.
We'll
I
move
love
on.
sports. No, I love. I think the Packers have a good chance. I mean, first and foremost, when you have the best quarterback in the game right now, Aaron Rodgers, not of all time, but in the game as of today, you always have a chance. Then they picked up Martellus Bennett and Lane Kendricks, and they also have Richard Rodgers, so they're deep in the tight end position. Their receivers are, they're healthy. I'm kind of excited to see what Montgomery does since he's going to be at running back for the full season because he switched from wide receiver last year because all of our running backs are hurt. We even lost our starter, our backup, and the practice squad player, so we had to move him. But he actually did a good job, and he's a good receiver out of the backfield. So the only concern is always with Green Bay is the defense. Ted Thompson doesn't like to put money into free agents. He likes to use undrafted free agents or go out and get rookies that are, really young or not good. So last year when we played the Falcons, that was a huge issue. Like Julio Jones torched the Packers secondary.
Julio Jones was hot last year. He was
Yeah,
he was
except
a
for the
beast.
the last half of the Super Bowl. They weren't
Yeah, well, I
hot
don't
anymore.
know what the heck happened there, man. How do you lose that kind of lead in the fourth quarter?
I don't know. When you have somebody like Tom Brady and somebody like Bill Belichick and who can keep the game plan, but the bad news for the Patriots is Julian Edelman just tore his ACL in the
Oh,
preseason
I
game
heard
against the
about
Lions.
that.
Oh,
He's
that's gonna.
done. He's done for the season.
But I
That's
mean,
what they said.
but the thing is, they still have such a deep team. Like they just signed or they just got Brandon Cooks from the Saints, who is a really good player. So and they also have Gronkowski if he can stay healthy. And then they also have Amendola, I still believe is still there. And then, of course, out of the backfield, they have James White, and they're deep in the running back position. So, and you have Tom Brady. So, I mean, the Patriots are one of those teams that Bill Belichick, I think, is just one of the greatest at building rosters, deep rosters, that it's the next man up, and they always seem to do good even when they have injuries. So,
Yeah.
they're a good team, and they have great personnel management for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Tom Brady just always seems to pull something out. Like,
It's
he's
probably
just such a
cheating.
really good quarterback, man.
The deflated balls are Spygate, but other than
I
that, I
don't
mean,
know. That was a weird controversy, I think.
I feel like a lot of quarterbacks do tend to deflate balls. He just got caught, but obviously those balls are under deflated. But no, he's a great player. Like he's going to go down as the greatest quarterback of all time simply because the fact he's been to 7 Super Bowls, he's won 5 of them. He's been a multiple-time MVP. But I mean, if we're going big, I think, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback skills-wise. But the thing is, he only has 1 Super Bowl, and that's what most people are going to look at. But I just think if you put Aaron Rodgers in the same position in the Patriots, it would be they would probably have 7 Super Bowls in
You
my
think they would
opinion.
have won more?
Well, this is the thing. Like Aaron Rodgers is just a freak of nature. This is a guy that, I mean, if you watch his Hail Marys, he's a guy that can roll out of the pocket on the run and throw pinpoint passes. He's going to be the first player in history to get 300 touchdowns without throwing 100 interceptions. And if you actually look at his playoff stats, he actually has better playoff statistics than Tom Brady. But Tom Brady always has one thing Aaron Rodgers doesn't, and that's a defense. And Aaron Rodgers also doesn't have Bill Belichick. But I can't knock him. I mean, when the game's on the line, Tom Brady can step up and play. But if you look at their QBR and their touchdown to interception ratio, Rodgers actually has the better numbers there. But numbers don't mean everything. It's just like the same argument with Jordan and LeBron James, stuff like that. LeBron may have the numbers, but Jordan has got the championships. So it's always a hard, debate there.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So, when I asked you to be on this show, you said you do two things, sports and politics.
Yeah.
And as long as I've known you, that has held true. You are the expert in those fields. So tell me, what are your thoughts on Trump's presidency so far? I gotta hear it.
Okay, so this is the thing. Let's just start off in the election. And I remember me and you talked about this during the election. And me and you both had this really huge disdain towards Hillary. So there's obviously, I'm not a Hillary fan. I've never have been. I kind of consider myself a moderate Republican, I guess, or maybe like a moderate libertarian. I tend to lean on social issues, I tend to lean to the left. And on fiscal issues, I tend to lean to the right. But it's just, I mean, as far as what he's doing, I mean, I wish he would just stick to just stop trying to fight with the media. They're obviously going to report what they're going to report. I mean, CNN and those guys don't like him. He just needs to stick to actually getting his job done and maybe pick people in the cabinet that are a little bit more qualified. That Rick Perry is not really somebody I thought was a good choice. Rex Tillerson was kind of different. I'm not opposed to that. He has done business around the world, but it's just like he keeps picking people and he can't seem to get his ducks in a row as far as keeping his staff and his cabinet together. He's always having some type of some inner issues. I am happy they got rid of Steve Bannon. I was never a fan of Steve Bannon. I don't like Breitbart News or the alt-right, really, at that matter. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't even know really how long he's gonna last. He keeps rolling out all these weird things. He pardoned Joe Arpaio, but I mean that was weird too. I don't really know. It's a really weird presidency, that's for sure, if you compare it to past. But I just wish he would just stick to the issues and try to actually, instead of fighting with the media and stuff like that. That shouldn't be a concern when you're president. The media is always going to criticize you, no matter if you're on the left or the right. So.
Yeah, and I mean, like, a lot of his supporters and his base really like it when he fights the media. They love it when he calls them fake news, like, that gets them all fired up. But, yeah, I think you're right. It's just, he's got to move on. Like, he already won. He's not trying to win anything anymore. Like, he's already in the White House.
Hillary. He keeps talking about Hillary. Like,
Exactly.
you already beat her. You need to focus on what's ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, in his defense, the Republicans definitely stabbed him in the back when it came to healthcare reform, because everybody's like, oh, repeal Obamacare, repeal Obamacare. We've been hearing that since 2010 when the Tea Party started. And then all of a sudden when they actually have the chance to do it, they can't do it. But I mean, he's obviously having problems, even within his own party of, working with the establishment because of some of his, his extreme views. But honestly, that election, I mean, Hillary, people were like, oh, Hillary would have been done better. I always talk to people like, oh, how could you think Trump would be better than Hillary? He's this loud guy that says dumb stuff. I was like, look, Hillary is like, this is what is like a mob boss or something. She seems nice on the front, and she has like this clean, you think, oh, she's so nice. But then if you just look at all the stuff she's done, like every politician has scandals, but I mean, goodness sakes, like you're getting money as Secretary of State, your foundation's getting money from foreign leaders. I mean, come on, that is not
Right.
kosher at all. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the election, like before Hillary and Trump were even like, confirmed to be the front runners, it was like, I really didn't care that much about who won. And then I was just like, browsing the internet, and I see this video about Hillary Clinton, and it's like half an hour long, nonstop, just all the scandals she's been in since.
And you can
since
research
she's
these too.
been
It's
in
not just like
office.
it's not a conspiracy theory. You can actually look these.
No.
Yeah, like her lying about being under fire in Bosnia, her, just going through and looking at her past, and just like the only reason why Bill Clinton got away with that stuff is he's a good politician. He's slick. That's why
Yeah.
they call him, slick, slick Bill. He's good at that. He's good at talk. The thing is, the other thing that she had was the email. She would have just came from the beginning and just accepted that that's what happened and just took responsibility for it instead of saying, "Oh, this didn't happen," or this and
Right.
that, and all these things. Like I don't know. And the thing is, though, I mean, I really wish we had better choices. Honestly, I think Bernie. I don't agree with everything Bernie says, but I mean, he would have obviously been a better nomination than her.
I do agree that Bernie would have been better than either of them, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I really disagree with socialism.
He would.
just
He.
all
I.
about it. And I think
disagree
like
with it too,
when
yeah.
he got into office, he probably wouldn't have been
Yeah.
able to turn us
No,
into
there's no
like
way.
a socialist country. Like
No.
we have checks and balances to stop that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But I do think he's a more reasonable person than Trump.
Yeah.
And he's not as
Hillary.
evil as Hillary.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So I mean, it would have been nice. And the thing is, what I'm concerned with is Elizabeth Warren is coming in. She's crazy.
she's just nonsense. Everything she says is just nonsense, man.
Yeah.
Like
I don't like people that are on the extremes, on the far right or the far left. They just,
yeah.
it's like, I like people who are sensible, that can come together and realize that both sides have, equal concerns. But the big thing for me right now from both sides is just they're both just they just like to spend a lot of money. The Republicans want to cut from social welfare to put more money in foreign policy, and the Democrats want to cut from, military spending. I mean, the thing is, we need to cut both of those things. We're in a huge deficit, and it's just
everyone wants to, they run on reducing spending, balancing the budget, but then they get in and they start saying, "Oh, we're going to spend all this money on this and that, and we're going to fix all the problems."
That's because cutting spending isn't a popular belief, because people don't want to hear, "Oh, you're going to cut welfare, you're going to cut the military."
True.
But then you have to be a realist and realize that you cannot afford what we're doing. We're stretching out our militaries all over the world. We have bases in like over 100, I think like almost 130 countries. We have bases in Germany from from WW2. Like, come on.
Right, and that's one of the things that when Trump was running, that's one of the things that he got, some
And now he's
praise
putting
for.
troops in Afghanistan.
Right. I mean, obviously he didn't mean a word of it, but he went up there and he was saying things like, why do we have a military in Japan? They're not paying us to protect them. Like, and you're like, yeah, we shouldn't have military there unless, we're
But
getting
we like
something
to police
for
the
it.
world. We
But
like
I
to
mean,
have
yeah,
our
we're the
nose in
world
everybody's
police.
business.
We got to make
We're
sure
good at that.
everyone's, kosher, and you got to make sure everyone's following our
And we
laws.
have North Korea and all that situation.
Right, but now he's president, and it's fire and fury and
Yeah, exactly.
nation building in Afghanistan. So
Yeah, and I don't know what he's doing. He definitely followed the Republican method as far as that goes on foreign policy. But the thing is, hearing all these people talk about his foreign policy, like Obama was doing the same thing. Like Obama
True.
had a war hawkish policy. He just used drones more than soldiers.
right,
But I mean, if you look at from the foreign policy since Bush, the second Bush has been in, to Obama to Trump, it really hasn't changed. It's been about the same.
yeah.
Like when he attacked Syria and stuff like that, and all that stuff like that. Crazy.
Just tear apart the world so that you can get all the resources, I guess. I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, obviously they're in the Oval Office. Maybe there's something we don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. I'm sure when you're a president, you get briefed and you probably hear things that the average person doesn't know. But I think I'm not saying that we necessarily need to be out of world affairs, because we are a superpower. We obviously are threatened. So we need to keep a presence there, but it's got to be limited. I mean, we don't need bases in Germany. We don't need. I mean, the only thing I can see maybe a base in Japan is maybe for Korea, but I mean, we also have bases on South
With Guam.
Korea.
Guam is pretty close to Japan,
So
anyways.
We don't need to shut down every base. I'm not one of those people that says we need to be, a
Isolationist.
lockdown. Yeah, exactly. But we could shut down a good amount of our bases.
Right. I feel like we could definitely cut our military spending drastically and still
even
be
if you cut
totally
it-
fine.
Even if you cut it by a quarter, even by that at the bare
Yeah.
minimum, I mean, that would be
And I mean,
insignificant.
that's a lot. considering
Yeah,
how much we
exactly.
spend on military, a quarter of our military is a lot, and I do think we would be totally fine.
We spend what more than the next 10 countries combined, all of which are allies.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's just like, come on now. But
Yeah.
America, we like to beat our chest. We're the world power. We don't want anybody to mess with us. So, and you have a lot of people who like that. That oh, we're the United States. Nobody can take us down. But
I
that's what could be your
guess.
downfall, is believing that that way about things. But we
But
don't
yeah, I
have
mean,
reasonable elected officials. So that's a problem.
right. It's just we don't have people who are, everything is about like re-election or, your public image.
Yeah. Feeding the base, the
No
red
one's
meat.
really trying to make this country like a better place. They're just trying to make themselves look better, I think.
And boast their career and
And right, and
stand
I
power.
thought that Trump would come in and be different because he's already a billionaire. Like it's not like he really needs more money. I mean, maybe he wants the image and it's like, okay, you can have the image,
Feed his
dude.
ego. Yeah, I'm sure it feeds his ego for sure.
But it seems like
Uh,
he's just trying to, he's just trying to keep the status quo or like
well, I mean, first and foremost, I think term limits for members in Congress is something that they should look into because you have people who are sitting in Congress for 40, 50 years. Like,
right.
they're not going to want to make changes. They're going to keep doing whatever they're doing to get reelected. Like, here in Utah, I live in Salt Lake City. I mean, Orrin Hatch has been the senator here for years. Like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. And then even in California, you have Dianne Feinstein and, well, Barbara Boxer, but she just retired. But, I mean, they had been in for years. It's just, I think it should be 12 years in Congress, 12 years in Senate, and that's it. I mean, the only reason why it's not in the Constitution is because the founding fathers used to, voluntarily step down.
Right.
George Washington, he voluntarily stepped down from being in a position of power.
Right, and he just set a precedent that
Yeah,
everyone followed up until uh, FDR,
yeah, exactly.
who decided he wanted to be the king of America.
Yeah, and he was a socialist. Like, and he actually, the thing is with his positions, they like Social Security and all that stuff he implemented. Those are supposed to be short-term fixes to the Great Depression, and then now we have these programs that are going on for years and years that are not sustainable. That the thing is,
Yeah.
people are like, oh, I understand the what the elderly's argument is. I paid into that. Okay, you did, so we need to pay them, but. Going for the future, you really have to realize it's not sustainable. Social Security,
Hmm.
unless there's reforms made, I mean, there's not going to be money there for when me and you retire. We're paying right now. My taxes when I pay to Social Security is going to the elderly because they,
Yeah.
and they're basically putting an IOU on us. So when we retire, it probably won't even be there for us because they want it. And the thing is, politicians they feed, they have to feed that. They need the
Right.
elderly vote.
The elderly vote more than
They
any other
vote
constituency.
exactly. They vote the young people. They're like, and I see it on Facebook. Oh, I don't care about politics. Politics is stupid. I don't vote. It's not necessarily for president that matters. It's these smaller offices: city
Hmm.
council, Congress, state senate. Those are the ones you should be following because these are the people that are making a direct impact.
Yeah.
But people are just too ignorant to figure that out, and then that's why the old people get all these benefits, and then the young people they don't care about what we say because we don't vote. We have terrible vote turnouts, and we don't
Yeah.
know what's going on other than like Trump. So it's
Exactly.
ridiculous.
Yeah, the only thing people care about is if, their favorite person won American Idol for the
Yeah,
presidency.
exactly,
And
exactly.
it's like a popularity contest and like the president has so little impact on your day-to-day
Exactly.
life and that's the
Yeah,
only thing anyone cares about for some
you should
reason.
follow the bottom up. You should see who's on your school board, who's on your city council, who's on
Right.
your state senate, Congress, and all the way up, because those people are going to have more of an influence of representing you than the president is. The president's just a general. It's just there just for the federal purposes to run the central government. I mean, he does
Right.
have impact, but these people in Congress, these are the people voting on your behalf. And if you look at most people, most people in Congress are usually extremists because the people who vote are either the elderly or the people that are super passionate about their views. And there's straw
Yeah.
man arguments like abortion and stuff like that, which is definitely a straw man to win elections and gay marriage and all these social issues that shouldn't even be discussed. I mean, the important thing right now is the economy. I
Right.
mean, it's more important than those issues.
Right.
But, like
Yeah,
wedges.
and I mean when the president like when the country started, the president had very little
Yeah,
power and
exactly.
duties. Like he didn't really do very much.
It was
But
all state
yeah,
governments
state
back then.
governments did pretty much everything. Everything was local, and I think that we should try to go back to that.
Yeah.
I think the federal government should focus mainly on national defense,
Yeah.
foreign policy.
And like civil rights, keeping it, I mean stuff
Right,
like that where you can't infringe on people's freedoms, then the
right.
federal government could step in. But the thing is, I mean, it's also dangerous with that because the Civil War, I think a huge issue of that was fought because of states having problems with the federal government. And when you talked about
True.
Robert E. Lee, I mean, he really wasn't like a huge slave supporter. He just loved his state because back then you used to have state pride so much, like you
Right.
loved your
It
state.
wasn't it wasn't America, it was
Yeah,
Virginia,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know.
But no, I think there needs to be some powers back to the states in certain issues. Like, and the people say, well, do you want to live in 50 different, do you want like 50? It's going to feel like you're in 50 different countries. But the thing is, that's really what our country is founded on, the idea that
Right.
you could live in a state that's different from another state. So you could move around and it be
Right.
some,
If you don't like the state you're living in, you can move
you
to a
have the
different
freedom to
one.
move.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
it would be completely different, and you can, vote to make it how you want it to be, and
Yeah.
it would be more direct representation. But
But people don't like that because
and
they,
yeah, the problem is like people don't even know what their city council members do. They don't know what
yeah,
their
exactly.
school board members do. They don't even pay attention to that stuff
Yeah,
because they just
exactly.
watch the news, and all the news wants to talk about is what did Trump tweet today? What
That's
did
why I'm so glad we're not a democracy. Every time I hear people say we need to be a democracy, I'm like, I am so glad we're not a democracy because people are too stupid to
No,
use that
people
much
have no
power.
idea. People have no idea what's
People
going
keep saying
on.
we need a democracy. It's like I'm glad we're in a republic, or in a democratic republic, I guess you could say, because people are way too dumb to have that much power on to that direct where it's majority rule.
Yeah,
Oh my God, this country would be going down the toilet by now, even worse than it is already,
yeah.
because people they don't read the bills, they don't know what's going on, they don't even know what's going on in their local, city council office that's like 10 minutes from their house. They're just so oblivious to that stuff, and that's why I think it's good that we have a republic because we vote to elect people to represent us to actually have the time to read these bills, and they're usually college educated, but even that's turning out not to be that good because we're still messing that up by voting for people that aren't qualified. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's everywhere. You have people running for Congress that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So I don't, it's
Yeah.
it's
I agree. We need term limits. We need people to focus more on their local government. We
have
need,
access to the internet. You can literally research anything you need.
yeah.
But
Exactly. We have the, most uh, expansive access to information in the history of, the human race, and all people do is use it to watch cat videos.
or just mentality of political parties where it's just, you know, like gang warfare. It's like Republicans are like Bloods and Democrats are like Crips, and that's just all it is. Like, oh, I hate you because you're Republican. Well, not everybody who's Republican is bad. Not everybody who's Democrat's bad. It's
Exactly.
we're like, oh, I hate Democrats. They're a bunch of socialist commies, and then you see the people on the right, oh, they're a bunch of Nazis. But that's not the way it is. You're just seeing a small percentage of the people that are legitimately, those people are not. That's not all Republicans. It's not all Democrats. I don't know. I can't stand when people say they support communism, and I can't stand when people say they support any form of fascism.
Yeah, or
It's
Nazi or whatever.
just terrible things. That our country literally was about freedom and not using a government to dictate every little thing you do.
Exactly. If you want to live in a communist or a socialist society, Venezuela, I'm sure will take you, man. Like you can go ahead and stand in a bread line all day.
Different from that. That's what makes us so unique is that we don't have these strong, initially we were supposed to be, we don't want a strong central government. We want, something that's more delegated.
Right.
You don't have this like monarchy type feeling. And I wouldn't want to live in a country where your president or your leader, your dictator has all the power in his hands. Like one person with that much power is usually what always messes up these systems. I mean, communism on paper, I guess you could say, sounds nice, but
There's no way to make it sustainable.
humans involved.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It's not a good. I mean, even extreme libertarians. I mean, which is basically on the borderline of anarchy. I mean, that even in that case, it's not sustainable. You don't want to be too far on no government. You don't want to have too much government. You got to find a nice middle ground to where you're limiting your central government, but you're not giving all this power to your central, government, your central leaders. So
Be sure to leave us a comment down below or tweet us at NotSoMalone. Thank you for watching Not So Malone with your host Matt Malone. If you have any feedback or suggestions for future topics, be sure to leave us a comment down below or tweet us at Not So Malone. Thank you for watching Not So Malone with your host Matt Malone. If you have any feedback or suggestions for future topics to discuss, leave us a comment down below or tweet us at Not So Malone.